What is up, YouTube? It's your boy Crash. Welcome to day 2 of this 30-day clothing brand bootcamp series that we're doing. Welcome. Today we're talking about how to build a brand identity that stands out. So we're not going to be wasting no time. Without further ado, let's do what it do. Alright, so your brand is more than just a logo. It's about how people recognize, remember, and connect with your brand. Essentially, if you want to stand out, you need a strong brand identity. We all know that, but we don't do it. So today, I'll break down the step-by-step process of building a brand identity using this framework that covers brand messaging and brand expression. So by the end of the video, you'll know exactly how to craft a brand that stands out, sticks, and you're just going to be better than your competitors. Your brand identity is essentially made up of two key parts: messaging and expression. Messaging is the foundation. So it includes your brand's purpose, vision, values, and just overall positioning in the market. This is what defines who you are and who you serve, right? Brand expression, on the other hand, is how you visually and verbally communicate your identity through your logo, your typography, your brand voice, personality, and just overall aesthetic, right? So when these two work together, your brand becomes recognizable, consistent, and unforgettable. That's what this framework is about. So section 1, we're diving into more in depth about the messaging side of things. Before we get into the visuals, branding, aesthetics, we need to build a solid brand foundation. And this starts with your brand's messaging, right? This includes your brand substance and your positioning. Your brand substance is your purpose, vision, mission, and values, like we previously mentioned. Your positioning, on the other hand, is who you serve, who your competitors are, and what makes you different. So let's break this down even further. Brand substance. What is brand substance? It's essentially the heart of your brand. Brand substance is your brand's core foundation. It answers the 3 W's: why you exist, what you stand for, and where you're going, right? So 4 key elements. Purpose answers what is the reason your brand exists. Vision answers where do you see your brand in 5 to 10 years. Mission, how do you plan to achieve that vision within the 5-10 years? And number 4 is values, which answers what principles shape your brand's decisions. So let's look at a couple examples so you get a better understanding of what I'm trying to imply here. Nike, for example, their mission is to bring inspiration and innovation to every athlete in the world. That's what they do. Every time you see a campaign that they showcase to their audience, it inspires you. It motivates you to be a better person, a better athlete, to compete and strive for greatness, right? Patagonia, on the other hand, their purpose is we're in business to save our home planet. Let's go back to the 4 key elements. Patagonia, we're in the business to save our home planet. That's their purpose, the reason their brand exists. Same with Nike, to bring inspiration and innovation to every athlete in the world. That's their mission. You see how that makes sense? Let's look at these campaign examples right here. Nike's Serena Williams Fail Forward campaign. This just screams motivation and to push your limits, to strive for greatness. Tying back to their mission of inspiration and innovation into the world. Next up, you have Patagonia's campaign. Look at it, Patagonia, we've got your back. They're not just talking about the comfortable clothes that they're going to provide to their audience, but also they're doing it in a sustainable fashion where they're there to save planet Earth. Tying back to their purpose, one of these key elements, why the reason the entire brand exists in the first place, right? So that's brand substance. Moving on to positioning. This is how you stand out. That's what brand positioning is all about. Once your brand substance is clear, the next step is positioning. How you stand out in the market. How do you do this? By following the subcategories, which includes your audience, which is who you're targeting, your competitors, who you're up against, and the difference, what makes you unique, your competitive advantage, right? Let's look at two amazing examples of these brands, Fear of God and Essentials. Fear of God is very high-end, exclusive, just screams premium, crazy luxury streetwear, like style, everything. On the other hand, Essentials is more mass market, more affordable, everyday essentials. Let's look at this example right here. Fear of God. This wool high neck track jacket, 2K, well 3K actually, almost 3K, right? And Essentials on the other hand, 175 for a classic sweatpants. Notice how they position themselves through imagery. As you can see, Fear of God, very high and exclusive. It screams, 3K. Like the product photography, super high quality. On the other hand, Essentials, it does the job with a simple flat lay mock-up, right? And the way they present their product descriptions and everything. It just, appeals more to the mass market, more affordable, everyday essential kind of feel. That's what positioning is all about, how you stand out. And if you already don't know what these two brands are, it's essentially created by the same founder, but catered towards different audiences, competitors, and positioning. So Fear of God competes with luxury brands like Rick Owens, while Essentials targets a broader streetwear audience. Same founder, but different audiences. That's how positioning, helps you stand out. Okay, moving on to the second section, which is the expression side of things. We talked about messaging, which is your top component. Now expression, the bottom component. And this brand expression is all about how your brand looks, sounds, and feels across all touch points. So this includes your brand persona, which is the personality and voice of your brand, communication, how you tell your story and connect with your audience, your people. Number 3 is visual expression, so the overall aesthetics that make up your brand, your visuals. So we're going to dive into each one of these. Number 1, brand persona. Brand persona is your brand's overall, like everything about your personality and voice. Your brand should feel like a person, so it needs a personality and a voice that connects with your audience. You don't want your brand to be very robotic, generic, just like every other brand out there. It needs character. That's what makes people wanting to, get to know your brand and just follow you. You need a personality. That's exactly what brand persona does. How people perceive your brand, right? So, how do you define your brand persona? Ask yourselves the questions like, is your brand casual or luxury? Is it playful or serious? Is it minimal or bold? You want to ask yourself these type of questions so you get an understanding of how you want your brand to be perceived. Do you want it to be perceived playful? Do you want it to be perceived more eco-conscious? Do you want it to feel like Gucci, luxury? Whatever it is, you need to define your brand persona. And you got to be real specific with it. Let's look at a couple of examples here. Supreme and Panji. I still don't know how you say it. But Supreme is their persona is all about just exclusivity, hype, rebellious. Like it just screams out in front of you, right? And on the other hand, Pangea is sustainable, eco-friendly, calm, and conscious tone, right? The tonality of how they present themselves. Very more relaxed, eco-friendly, and things of that nature. And even though both brands are in the same streetwear space, their tone sets them apart. Supreme, like it just screams hype, like streetwear, right? Panji, on the other hand, more relaxed, eco-conscious, down-to-earth sort of tone. So you notice the differences, right? You see how things tie in, how people perceive your brand. So you essentially want to figure out how you want your brand to be perceived as well. What tone that you want is what you want to set in their minds. Next up is Number two, communication. And this is all about how your brand speaks to your target audience. This is where your key messaging, storytelling, and tagline comes into play, right? The three elements that make up the brand communication is key messaging, which is what's the one thing you want people to remember. Number two, storytelling. How do you create an emotional connection with your audience? Number three, your name and tagline. Is your brand name memorable? Does your tagline reinforce your brand mission, right? Very, very important. You gotta have these three elements in check. Without it, you're not gonna be able to communicate. You can have a tone, but you need to know how to communicate that tone through storytelling, and that can be both visually and written literacy. I don't know if that's the right word, but you know what I'm trying to say. Literary. That's the one. Okay, let's look at a couple examples of Nike, for example. Their key message is motivation and performance. Tagline: just do it. Their mission that we looked at earlier and their tone is all about this motivation, innovation, push athletes forward. And the key message of motivation and performance is literally seen in every single campaign. It's consistent across all of their channels, brand, everything. Tagline: just do it. Their communication, key messaging, let's go back to the elements. Their storytelling, key messaging, and name, tagline, purpose, everything ties in together and it's consistent, right? Another example of Off-White. Their key message: art meets streetwear. They use industrial labeling and storytelling. You want to make sure that your brand also has a way of communicating your tone, your personality through storytelling and key messaging, right? The one thing that you want people to remember: Nike, motivation, innovation, performance, striving for greatness. That's what they want their audience to remember. You want to do the same thing with your brand, right? The third element is visual expression. Obviously, branding, a lot of how our mind works is visually, right? So your identity needs to be recognizable. Visual identity is the first thing people notice about your brand, so it needs to be consistent, memorable, and unique, just like everything else that we've been talking about. So this includes your competitors and the difference. Understanding your competitors is what common visuals are in your space. What are some of the competitors in your niche doing the same? What kind of visuals are they using? And the different side is how can you make yours stand out against or apart from you while staying relevant in that niche, right? Very important. So let's look at these examples. M. Londo, definitely butchered that, but hey, it is what it is. Look at their look at their overall visual aesthetic going on. Very vintage inspired, earthy tones, nostalgic NYC references. It's just so clean and it just looks beautiful. And it's consistent across all their campaigns, right? On the other hand, Louis Vuitton, bold, luxury, heritage branding. It's just very out there. They put themselves out there, right? So going back to the key elements, as you can see, they're both competitors. Because they're not cheap, right? But the difference is how they stand out. Is being let's say for this one, they're very down to earth, vintage inspired, and things of that nature. Whereas Louis Vuitton is more bold and they put themselves out there, right? That's what you want to do. You want to you want to understand what your competitor is doing, and then find how you can be different while also staying relevant in your niche. So look at their Instagram feed as well. Louis Vuitton, professional, crazy stuff. The other ones, it's more of a feeling, a vibe, down to earth. You can just tell visually by looking at it, right? The differences in storytelling. Okay. Okay, perfect. Now moving on to the last section, which is common branding mistakes that you want to avoid at all costs. Number one, no clear brand positioning. Trying to appeal to everyone means you appeal to no one. Just because you think an idea is cool does not mean people will buy it. Just like how we talked about in the first video about picking a niche. You gotta do your research first. You gotta make sure that there's demand for your niche, for your product, and everything for your market. Right? Same thing with your idea. If people don't want to buy it, it's not gonna work out. Right? So you gotta do your research first. Next up is inconsistent messaging and visuals. Random colors, logos, and just mixed messaging it just confuses customers. It's not gonna work. You gotta be consistent, right? And then no emotional connection. People don't buy products, they buy stories and meaning. Here's the thing. This is what separates successful brands from just, those brands that just start and die fast. People don't buy based on your product, your price, and all of that. They buy through emotions. That's just the psychology of how we are. You gotta understand that. If people don't feel like an inner connection with with your brand, you're gonna find it really hard to build a community and build a brand that's gonna last you for a long time, period of time. So you want to make sure that that's what we've been talking about. If you follow this framework and you're consistent throughout the entire way with your messaging, your visuals, and the way you tell your story and you push your purpose and mission out there, that's gonna in their minds plant that emotional and just that feeling associated with your brand. So now they care about your brand for who you are, the purpose, rather than just solely on the products, which, oh my days, rather than just the products. Damn, I didn't even change these slides. There you go. Okay. Okay, now that you understand the core brand identity, it's time to apply these steps to your own brand. So hopefully you've been taking notes. This has been day 2 of how to build a brand identity that stands out. So if you have any questions, please, drop a comment. I'll be happy to respond. As always, anything, whatever it is about today's topic or for future videos, what you want to see, or any specific questions you have about your brand per se, you need my help, let me know. Shoot me a message, comment below. I'm here to help. This is literally what I do. So, hey, that's been day 2. It's been your boy Crash. Make sure y'all subscribe so I can keep putting these videos out there. Tomorrow is going to be day 3, which we're going to talk about. I forgot what we're going to be talking about. I think it's about picking a manufacturer. But hey, yes, thank y'all for watching. And get to work. Take action, baby. So subscribe and Crash out.